The later it gets, the funkier the music gets. Seems like we're getting in the dance club here tonight. Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday night. Hope everyone is enjoying their Tuesday night at home. And this is the inaugural edition of the South Florida Blitz. We're going to spend the next 30 minutes taking a look at high school football in South Florida. We'll have the Blitz Lines, the headlines for the week coming up. We'll have an interview, as we will every week, coming up with the head coach of Cardinal Gibbons in Fort Lauderdale, Matt DuBuc. That's coming up in about 10 minutes. And then later on, the Pick Six. We'll pick 6 games from around the South Florida region, and we'll do that every week here on the South Florida Blitz. And I am Marty Pallman, joined by Joshua Wilson of FloridaHSFootball.com. Our inaugural Blitz episode a few weeks ago was all about the state of Florida. Now we've decided we're going to do 4 shows of 30 minutes. We had North Florida, Central Florida, Gulf Coast, and we're going to end off tonight with what probably is the definitely last but not least, South Florida, the powerhouse region that it is. And we got a lot to talk about in the next 30 minutes, Josh.
No, absolutely. And of course, there's a lot of headlines always in South Florida, especially since South Florida, what we include a little bit of South Florida is part of the Treasure Coast, which all the way up to Vero Beach. But they definitely get a lot of the feel of the South Florida market down there. And it's definitely a lot of football, over 150 teams at least in the stretch that we're talking about here. I mean, it's a lot of football in that stretch. It's along I-95 and the Florida Turnpike.
Yeah, on 995, as you said. So this covers from Indian River and St. Lucie counties down through Martin County, as well as, of course, Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade, and Monroe and the Keys. So we'll cover a large area as well on the South Florida Blitz. Let's start. We will do this every week with what we call the Blitz Lines. There will be headlines from around South Florida high school football. And I'm waiting for that breaking news music. There it is.
No, absolutely. And then, Marty, there's a lot to talk about here. I mean, especially after the thing that this was late. I know we're kind of Johnny come late to this, but, I still want to acknowledge it. The Broward Officials Association did apologize like Wednesday of last week to Cocoa for what happened against St. Thomas Aquinas there in week 3. And
right. We talked about this in the Central Florida Blitz because Cocoa is in that area. And well, again, for St. Thomas Aquinas, again, you and I weren't there, but it sounds like they were very fortunate to win that game, and Cocoa may have been hosed a little bit there, but yeah, again, apologizing to the team. I don't know what that does. It doesn't bring back the game. It doesn't bring back the the team. You can't win the game anyway. It doesn't change much, but I understand, and I'm sure Aquinas is going to say, well, we won the game. We're okay with that.
No, absolutely. No, you're right about that. It's you could put the asterisk there at the end of the day, but at least they acknowledge it and one thing. But now it's you got to roll on with the season here. There's still more football to play and everything. But Marty, here's a team that is that's been rolling, and nobody's been able to find a way to stop them yet. But in terms of being able to I think looking at it, they American Heritage played them pretty closely as Chaminade Madonna, who's 4-0 in the season, and right now ranked number 1 in the Florida top 25.
Yeah, they're beating everybody, and they take care of American Heritage, as you said, and now this week they get to play Miami Central. That's the reward. I mean, it just gets harder for Chaminade Madonna, and that game will be played at Traz Powell in Miami. It's going to be televised on ESPN.
Yeah, it is a huge showdown Thursday night, as you said, at Traz Powell. And Chaminade Madonna, Miami Central, I mean, you can't get any better than that. The number 1 team versus the number 3 team in the state. And Miami Central, their game against Carroll City, which was a district game, it's been postponed. We don't know what date's going to be rescheduled yet because Mother Nature has been free-flowing with storms there across South Florida. So it's definitely been very interesting to say the least on that one.
Yeah, it's been it hasn't been raining much up where we live, but yeah, definitely down in South Florida still, as you said. So hopefully they'll be able to continue to get their games in as well. But that's coming up Thursday night, Chaminade and Miami Central. And I know you said Chaminade, you have them ranked number 1 overall. I think Central's 3rd in your top 25. So obviously 2 of the top teams in Florida. going at it.
You're absolutely right. And of course, at the end of the day, it's really, if when we're talking about South Florida football, it's just, it is dominant in terms of what, the number of teams that, emerge from there. I mean, when it was the 8 classifications, 1A through 8A, South Florida was winning at least 6 to 7 of those state championships out of the 8.
Right.
Metro Suburban kind of reduced that down to 4. But I will tell you this, and this is going to be interesting for those watching in South Florida right now. The FHA has got a classification committee going on, and apparently a good word has it that they are going to be meeting soon in person, and we should be getting some idea. By the way, the FHA board of directors, they're just doing a thing. They're not doing a general board meeting on Monday because of the new board with all the changes made by Governor Ron DeSantis. So the new board is coming in for the first time of almost all the new members. So Sunday they're going to just do a general. They're going to do the introductions and stuff like that. But it is in terms of general board business and all that. That's not going to be done until the November meeting. So kind of an interesting change.
And Sunday is not open, I'm sure, to the media.
I'm not sure about that, but Sunday, I'll tell you what. Sunday they've got the Hall of Fame dinner, which is actually big right there. Recognizing the 55 years since the Florida Interscholastic Athletic Association, which was the athletic association dealing with the black schools before this was prior to desegregation. Desegregation was prior to that, and then they merged with the FHA in '68, and it's been 55 years since then, and it's a lot of people that have been long overdue for recognition, and now they're finally being inducted into the FHA Athletic Hall of Fame on Sunday at the Hilton in Gainesville.
Right. I have a chance to go that before. It's a nice evening, really is. Hear those the speeches and good dinner as well. So yeah, that's always a good evening, that Hall of Fame dinner coming up here this weekend. Always the last week in September usually. So unless there's a hurricane, which has happened before.
It has happened before. Yes, you're right.
A few years back, but. So one more thing to look at as far as the Blitz lines are concerned, and we're going to go away from South Florida a little bit and talk about Treasure Coast. Here's a team that's on a roll as you head a little bit further north.
And in Treasure Coast, they have been really playing some strong arm football, and now they get another test coming up here this week, which we will talk about more here later on when we hit the pick 6 in terms of looking at the games for this week that we're going to pick on. But I will tell you, Treasure Coast, they are just rolling. They have played the tough competition. Jesuit, Jesuit, Seminole, Osceola. You can't get any better than that in terms of the competition. Of course, they beat Martin County for their first district win of the season. So 4-0, and then they got to roll into St. Thomas Aquinas, who, it's really going to be interesting to see what kind of St. Thomas Aquinas team are we going to get? And then, is Treasure Coast, are they going to be able to stand up to the tall test? We saw that Cocoa can do it. Can Treasure Coast match what Cocoa did? Maybe actually get, can they get a W there against St. Thomas Aquinas there at Brian Piccolo Stadium there in Fort Lauderdale?
Yeah, that's right. So that's we'll see how that goes this weekend. Treasure Coast has been, or Friday night, they really have been on a roll. We'll see if that will continue as well. Michael Parsons saying, welcome to SoFlo. And we thank you, Michael. He's been following us most of the night, but it's good to be talking to South Florida. And, we talked a little bit about the powerhouses there, and Chaminade Madonna seems to be the team to beat, but we're afterwards. By the way, we're going to take a time out for a water break in just a moment. After that, we're going to come back with Matt DuBuc of Cardinal Gibbons. And that's a coach that's won 3 state titles in like the last 5 seasons. So, they've had a lot of success at Cardinal Gibbons as well.
Yeah, and I remember this a couple years. It's been a couple years since it happened, but they came up here, played Buchholz, and that was a fun game to watch.
That was, that's right. And so we're going to talk to Coach in just a few moments. But right now, we're going to take a water break, as we call it, and come back, and then we'll talk to Coach DuBuc. You are watching the first edition of the South Florida Blitz here tonight. Marty Pallman, Joshua Wilson with you. As you can see tonight's show on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter, or X, Twitter. I'm going to call it Twitter. We'll be back in just a few moments.
All right, and welcome back here on the South Florida Blitz. Josh Wilson here, Marty Pallman here, and we're getting ready to go into our interview here with head coach Matt DuBuc of the Cardinal Gibbons Chiefs. Coach, thanks for joining us here on your Tuesday evening. And so far this season, out to a 3-1 start. But Coach, when we start talking South Florida football and everything that you've got here, what has been the toughest challenge so far for the first 4 weeks for y'all this season?
Well, you bringing me on a show really late at night when I get to work really early in the morning, so that's pretty tough. where I'm at, we're gonna have a walkthrough at 7:15 in the morning, but we were able to get on the field today. And the weather that you guys were talking about earlier, it's hit or miss. So we're just fortunate, obviously, to be doing all right now, and it's a good deal. I heard you guys talking about Chaminade. We got to play them, and fortunately, we didn't play very well. But we were ahead for the quarter, and then we kind of dissipated, as they say, and they did what they were supposed to do. And made a lot of mistakes, and they were able to get the best of us. But that's football, and that's what you're supposed to do, and that's why you play the game.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and everything. But Marty, go ahead and let you take one on the questions here.
Well, Coach, I want to ask you too. We were mentioning, your 3 state titles that Cardinal Gibbons have. How have you been able to put Cardinal Gibbons on the map and get the first state championship and then 2 more since? How is this kind of how it started for you when you got there and to what it is now at Cardinal Gibbons?
Well, the biggest thing is it's the climb to the top of the iceberg is really rewarding because expectations for a lot of people are not very high. When you finally get to the iceberg at the top, it's slippery at the top, and everybody's trying to push it one way or the other. Unfortunately, my son played the USF, and they played this weekend, and I was at the game in Tampa. And you look at Saban and how long has this guy been able to put this thing, keep it together? And, they don't do well, but they get to win. And all of a sudden, Saban, unfortunately, not as good as he was a few years ago. So, I think that's a big part of what keeps me motivated is to stay on top of it. One step to the right, one step to the left, and next thing you know, you're slipping down the mountain or the iceberg, whatever you want to call it. Unfortunately, I give a lot of credit to St. Thomas, Heritage, and Chaminade. They've done a good job over the years winning state championships because it's hard to do now. People don't realize what it is. And, we're 3-1. We lost to a really good football team. We'll play Heritage next week. And win or lose, our season is going to continue on. We have a good football team, but we haven't in 2023. We haven't played a game where we played 4 quarters. So whether it's this week or weeks to come, that is what keeps you motivated because you can be better than you can.
No, absolutely, and when we coach, when we look at this, you talk about the season and stuff, but I mean, y'all have got in terms of a district, I think it's a tough district of itself because Stranahan's sitting there, they're kind of sitting there in the mix, but you've got the American Heritage Plantation, which has been a big rivalry. There's been some classic games over the years between y'all and the American Heritage. What do you think it's going to take to recapture that district championship that the Patriots took away from y'all last year? I mean, I know that's a tough thing, not to be able to win that district there. So I know what would it take to get that district championship into y'all's hands this year?
Well, we started off against them last year, kind of like we started off against Chaminade. We controlled the whole first quarter. They didn't have any plays, and self-inflicted wounds come into play when you're playing a good team and you make mistakes. And that's kind of what happened at Chaminade. That's what happened at Heritage twice. We had a chance to be Heritage the first time around at our place, and we blew it. And then second time in the playoffs in the third round, we had to control the first half, and then we blew it again. So, you play 4-quarter games against good teams. And unfortunately, this year we haven't done it yet. We played that Gibbons team, and unfortunately, we were looking them to play round out, and then we played Dillard, a young football team, and and our guys knew those kids, so they were kind of fired up. Probably played 3 quarters against them, and then we overlooked this team last week, Northeast Petersburg, American, and that's my fault because every week play the team play, not overlook anybody, and that's been my battle since I've been the head coach. But they're kids, and the NFL the same way. You overlook this team to play that team. College football, I'm sure. USF was overlooked by Alabama, played Miss. That's just what a good coach does. He keeps his team locked in. And I was able to do it for 7 years, but I'm not immune to the outside world getting involved in winning games or losing games because you got shows, there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's Instagram, everybody else is telling me something else. Trying to get them locked in is a real challenge.
Right.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, Coach. Just a few weeks ago, finally the most recent QB1 was released. It had Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young. Those guys are, of course, starting the NFL as rookies now. A few years ago, but I know I watched the one you had Nick Scalzo, right? That's who was on QB1. When you look at that show, I mean, is it more of a distraction? I know it's got to be good publicity, but is it kind of like Hard Knocks for NFL teams? Can it get a little distracting to have the cameras around all the time, kind of following the player and the team, or is it just pretty much a good thing for the program?
Well, honestly, I've never watched it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen or heard highlights of the show.
Yeah.
Some things are flattering, some things are not. I said when I was done at Cardinal Gibbons, when I retired, I'll watch it. But
so it's going to be a little while. Yeah.
Hopefully it's going to be a while. But, I just think, it's the same thing as with social media is created. It's just this whole phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
A fairy tale. And yeah, was it distracting? Yeah, a little bit. Was it fun? Yeah, it was a little bit. I mean, there's a whole bunch of little things that went into that deal, but we played poorly in North Georgia, and they captured a lot of those things that happened, and to be in the conversation, to be on a show like that is a good thing. To live it, not so much. But in 10 years from now, when I'm a little grayer than now, it'll be fun to look at.
The thing about one final thing, on all this, Coach. I mean, Cardinal Gibbons is your alma mater. It's where you played your high school ball at. I mean, at the end of the day, to be able to do this, and when the time comes that you're going to step aside and do all that, what how are you going to take that and being able to done something that not many people can do in terms of coaching their own alma mater and leading them to state titles, which is something that I know y'all came short up when you were a high school athlete, but you got over that mountaintop as the head coach.
You don't want to look at the end of your rope when you work so hard to get to the start of it. And, all that means is that you're getting a lot older and your own mortality is not necessarily the thing that is going to be in your future. So I look at it as I'm the head coach. I want to be the head coach. coach. I don't know how long I'll be the head coach because today's world is definitely a different place when I took over 8 years ago. But we won 75 games, 6 games in 8 years. You know, American Heritage has been my nemesis. We have 15 losses. None of them go to American Heritage. And, you know, I want to get this one up in 2 weeks from now. And if we play them again in the playoffs, I want to get that one because the overall is in their favor. And, you know, that's what motivates me. What makes it fun. You know, beating teams that you're supposed to beat is what you're supposed to do. And then, you know, we played a team against Northeast Petersburg last week, and you watch the film and you go, all right, this is going to be an easy one, no problem to handle it. And boy, oh boy, they came out and they played their tail off. I give credit to their coach. And you walk at it going, all right, it's the game, but, you know, you're getting everybody's best shot. And I give a lot of credit to Thomas and Harris and Conrad because everybody gives them their best shot, and we're one of the same teams. And, you know, you got to get up every week, and the good teams do it.
Oh, absolutely. And Coach, I definitely know that, you know, it's a thing. Y'all got the week off here. Get ready for American Heritage, and we'll see what happens there. But, you know, appreciate you taking out the time out of your busy schedule to chat with us here on the South Florida Blitz. And we'll definitely get you back on at some point down the road here as we approach towards the playoffs and you know, in October. But appreciate it. And good always talking with you.
Hey, Josh, all the best. Marty, appreciate what you guys are doing, bringing this light back down here, where, you know, where you are in the state. And
no, absolutely.
Buchholz's got a great football squad and all those people up there. But thanks again. Appreciate you putting this on the map here in South Florida.
No, absolutely. You're welcome very much. Thank you. You have a good one, Coach. Appreciate it. Hey, Coach Matt DuBuc of the Cardinal Gibbons Chiefs joining us here on the South Florida Blitz. And Marty, I know that's you know, it's fun to talk with these coaches and stuff and everything. And
it's a really good interview. And I figured it would be with him. And he's really had, as you know, I mean, 3 state titles since 2018. That was you know, like I said, I remember watching that QB1 show and being like, "Oh yeah, I
remember the cameras being followed. I was at Media Day down there. I remember that.
Yeah, I do like that show. I mean, like I said, they finally released the one with Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson like in August, which was from like 2019, and Netflix never released it because of the COVID year. So finally, it came out. I think I don't know where it was, Tubi or somewhere. And you know, I remember watching that show. It was Spencer Rattler, Nick Scalzo, and I forget the third quarterback that was in there, but in that year that he had it. But it was, you know, it's kind of like, I don't know. I like watching. I like those Hard Knocks kind of shows. I mean, I love the behind the scenes stuff. I just don't know how the teams and the coaches like it. It's because they're the ones who are always on camera and always, you know, we talked about. But anyway, that was good to talk to Coach DuBuc there. Enjoyed that. So. Well, we're almost out of time here with this first show, but let's go ahead and move on to the rankings. Joshua's rankings from FloridaHSFootball.com for the South Florida teams.
No, absolutely. And of course, this week in the Florida top 25, I mean, South Florida's loaded in the side in the Florida top 25. Chaminade sitting there at 1, Miami Central sitting there at 3, Columbus 4, Miami Norland moves up to 5, American Heritage slides back to number 6, and then you got St. Thomas Aquinas sitting there at 9. Going down further, Vero Beach sitting there at 13, and then we keep going. Cardinal Gibbons sitting there at 17, rising up from number 19. Miami Palmetto slides back a spot to number 18 after falling 15-0 to Columbus there in Saturday action. And then, of course, getting down a little further, we've got Booker T. Washington sitting there at 23, Cardinal Newman in West Palm Beach at 24, and that's I mean, again, a lot of South Florida.
It's like half the team, actually more than that, are South Florida teams, not surprisingly.
But that tells you the dominance down there. That tells you what South Florida football is doing,
right.
And it's they say there's been trackage of these maps over the years where it's like where's the dominance been, you know, and in certain regions it was like, it was in the 80s it was the Panhandle, in the 90s it was like Polk County and the I-4 corridor. the last 20 years, it's been South Florida.
It has been, and for a long time it was kind of Aquinas was the team we talked about, and then it became the Miami Centrals and the Northwesterns started winning titles, Booker T. Washington as well, and now heading into Broward County with Cardinal Gibbons. So it's moving all around South Florida too, and we'll see as that season goes on. Well, Michael Parsons saying, "Got my ticket for CCC at Gibbons." He said coming up. So
yeah, that's
another big one.
Jonathan Thayer says, love the show. Keep up the great work. We definitely appreciate Jonathan. Jonathan's been a long-time follower of FloatHSFootball.com, so appreciate him checking in now up in Alabama. He's been in Tallahassee for years, but now he's up in Alabama. Yeah. So hello, Jonathan. They're listening up there in Alabama. And, of course, Michael Parsons, Cardinal Newman hosting Atlantic Big, which we are going to actually kind of get here to in a moment.
That's
because
absolutely.
I believe that is something that we have coming up here on our list of the Pick Six.
Yeah, and the Pick Six, we're going to do this every week, and we'll pick 6 games from the South Florida area. And you're right, the very first game is Delray Beach Atlantic at Cardinal Newman. So we will get to that as well before we sign off for this first edition of the South Florida Blitz. Atlantic at Cardinal Newman. What do you see there, Josh?
Atlantic, the Eagles, they are a pretty good team, but at Cardinal Newman, when I look at certain things, with the power ranking index that I've got, the formula, I mean, Cardinal Newman, they are playing pretty well, and they're up there in terms of what the power ranking is telling me on this about them. So, and again, power ranking is just straight numbers. It's nothing, about how many Division I guys or vice versa, or coaching changes or any of that. So I really, I like what this is at home for Cardinal Newman. I'm going to take the Cardinal Newman Crusaders here in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Cardinal Newman wins this game at home. As you said, Atlantic, good team, but Cardinal Newman's really playing well. Yeah, give me the Cardinal Newman team.
Yeah, and the head coach, Jack Daniels. If that name sounds familiar, that's because that is the Jack Daniels that coached Dwyer for many years.
Right, that's right. And 2 state titles as well there at Dwyer. But all right, next up, we're going to go into Broward County, Coconut Creek. Stay in Broward County, actually. Coconut Creek and Blanche Ely. And yes. By the way, I learned a long time ago, it's Blanche Ely. You can't just call him Ely. It's Blanche Ely. They want to hear that. So anyway, go ahead.
Yes, so Coconut Creek at Blanche Ely. I mean, these are 2 teams are really, really doing really well here. I mean, each one. I mean, Coconut Creek gave the business to Plantation last week. Blanche Ely's 3-0. But gosh, somebody, this one's a hard one to choose, but I got to give home field advantage to Blanche Ely. But at the same time, I'm like, Coconut Creek, I mean, their only losses to Gainesville, not Gainesville, Florida, Gainesville, Georgia, who was 5-0.
Exactly. They probably would lose to Gainesville, Florida right now.
So, you know what? After seeing, this is tough. This is really, really tough. After Coconut Creek giving Plantation the business last week, I'm going to go for Coconut Creek on this one. I'm going with Coconut Creek to give Blanche Ely their first loss of the season.
All right. I'll go with Blanche Ely. We'll go with the unbeaten team at home. I know we always talked about Blanche Ely. They're a really good basketball program. Football starting to come up a little bit there. So I'll take Blanche Ely at home to stay unbeaten there in that game. All right. Northwestern at Columbus. We head to Miami-Dade County, defending state champion Columbus, and Northwestern, who's kind of having a little bit of a down year for them.
Yeah, they're struggling. They've only had 1 win. I mean, they've lost to Vero Beach. I mean, they can't just seem that they lost to Miami Edison 17-7 this past weekend. I mean, Miami Edison, talk about a team down there that's 3-0. And I mean, the Red Raiders, I mean, here's the thing. I got to stick with Columbus. Columbus defending state champs. I mean, Columbus is just doing everything right. Dave Dunn is an incredible head coach. I mean, and Michael Lee Harris, he took over Miami Northwestern this year after Max Edwards being removed and stuff. So I'm just really, in my opinion here, it's Columbus until somebody beats them. And nobody is the only team that's really come close to beating them so far this year, Clearwater Academy. So and that was week 1.
And speaking of that, that's our next game. I'm going to take Columbus as well, though. And Michael Parsons says Explorers explode in that game, and I think they will. You're right. Columbus is undefeated. They're talented, very good team. I think they'll take care of Northwestern at home. All right. Speaking, as you mentioned, Clearwater Academy International. 0-3, but man, their schedule has been brutal, and it's going to continue to be brutal as they head to Miami this week to play Palmetto.
Yes, and this is a tough one too. Miami Palmetto is a really good team. I mean, going down into the environment, especially since this game's going to be at Tropical Park, I believe that it's good. You remember they share home fields down there, so nobody has a home stadium designated in terms of total terms of what because sometimes like Miami Palmetto plays both at not only at Tropical but also plays down in Southridge too. So to be honest with you, it's a tough environment to come into, regardless if you for any team coming from out of town. I'm gonna stick with that Panther Pride 305 down there with Miami Palmetto.
I'd like to pick Clearwater because I feel like Clearwater Academy. I feel like they really deserve to win a game, but I think I'm with you. It's a long trip to Miami. I think Palmetto ready to go, and I will take Miami Palmetto as well in that game. All right, this is a game we talked about earlier. This is going to be a classic. Treasure Coast heading down to Fort Lauderdale to play St. Thomas Aquinas. Is it me? Or is this maybe not the best St. Thomas Aquinas team we've seen? I mean,
it's not you.
They lost to Don Bosco, which is not a bad loss. I mean, that's a number one.
St. John Bosco.
Sorry,
I want to make sure you do the right Bosco.
Right. I always get the Boscos confused. Don Bosco's in New Jersey. St. John Bosco's in California. But I think they're the number one team nationally right now.
Well, they are no longer the number one team nationally because they got beat by a team in Hawaii that was ranked like 200 something.
Wow. Well,
in the nation.
Maybe IMG is back to being number one, but. That's still either way. And then as you said, they probably should have lost to Cocoa. So how's this game going to go at home against a really good Treasure Coast team?
I think at the end of the day, I mean, the computer's going to tell me St. Thomas Aquinas is projected.
Right.
I will tell you that. The computer's going to tell me that. By the way, go get your MVP subscription to see the forecast, which will come out sometime tomorrow. Plus, we'll drop the first set of power rankings, so there you will get all that.
Is this our free pick of the week? We need to put this one out there.
Well, the computer's going to tell me it's St. Thomas, just because I've already looked at the numbers, already looked at it. But to me, I have got to take Treasure Coast with the upset at Brian Piccolo. I'm going with it because I think St. Thomas and Michael Parsons brings up a good point. Quarterback issues there at St. Thomas. I'm going to say that's a big critical thing.
Yeah. Stack the line and stop the run. Upset, he says in all caps. And you know what, Josh? I'm with you. I probably, usually I probably would take Aquinas, but I'm with you. I'm going to take Treasure Coast in this game to win on the road. And again, if Aquinas comes out and beats them bad, we'll look bad. But it is what it is. At least right now, we think Treasure Coast has a real good shot to win this game. All right, finally, game of the week, maybe the game of the year in South Florida. Chaminade Madonna and Miami Central at Traz Powell. This will be Thursday night on ESPN.
Yes, indeed. And this is battle of number 1 versus number 3 in the state of Florida. Battle of 2 top 25 teams nationally. You can't get any better than this. It is tough, especially the fact that Traz Powell is one of the toughest environments anywhere in the Sunshine State to go play at. If you're a team that is not located in Miami-Dade County, but Chaminade Madonna, this is not for them. This is really it's not really that difficult for them because they have played games at Traz Powell, so this is nothing new to them. Chaminade Madonna fears no challenge, and this is definitely not a challenge they're going to fear here. You know what? The Rockets are going to get their second loss of the season here in this game.
And their first loss came in Las Vegas.
At Bishop Gorman.
Yes. 1 point, I believe, to Bishop Gorman. Obviously, Chaminade, their schedule has been pretty brutal. They've been beating everybody so far. This feels like a game, though, that, Miami Central is always just excellent. And that's a tough one, man. I don't want to pick against Chaminade, but I think I'm going to pick Central at Traz Powell. I'll take Miami Central to win that game, and Chaminade, probably its only loss of the year, I would say. I don't know if they're going to lose to anybody else, but this might be the week.
That's just it. It's one of us is going to be right, one of us is going to be wrong in terms of the pick here because but this is like, again, it's the biggest game of the year. It's the biggest game on the biggest stage in terms of South Florida football in the state of Florida. Period. It's this game. Right. This game's been circled on the calendar for months on end.
Well, and Chaminade, like you said, this is a this Chaminade team is really good. I mean, they can beat anybody. I'm gonna hedge a little bit and say Central can win this game, but I won't be surprised at all if Chaminade goes out and beats them.
You know what? Let me see if I can get Larry Bluestein on next week, because after this one, we're gonna need the goat of all goats in this Sunshine State to talk about this one.
The authority on South Florida football, definitely, Larry Bluestein. But we went a little bit over, but I figured we would. So much to talk about South Florida. We couldn't really do it in 30 minutes. We did it in about 35 minutes, but man, it was a lot to cover. The pick six there as well. A lot of big games this week, and that's going to do it for our first edition of the South Florida Blitz. We hope you enjoy all the games this week. Another big week of high school football in South Florida. I'm looking forward to checking out that Chaminade Madonna Miami Central game on ESPN. But anyway, all the other teams in South Florida, again, another big year for football, and we look forward to talking about it as the season goes on, heading into the postseason. So week 5 coming up Friday night. So everyone enjoy their high school football week and the rest of your week as well. For Joshua Wilson, I am Marty Pallman, and you have been watching the South Florida Blitz inaugural edition. Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, no, absolutely. Appreciate it.
And where can we see Josh? Josh, go ahead at Florida HS Football, as you can see on your screen.
And, of course, in that at Florida HS Football, FLHS Football, of course, on the Florida HS Football and all the other social media channels. And appreciate it, Marty. Good show.
Yeah, it was. We thank everybody for watching our 4 regional shows, North Florida, Central Florida, Gulf Coast, and in South Florida. And we will do it again for South Florida next Tuesday, every Tuesday at 9:45 p.m. All right. Good night, everyone.